Hello, hi, I'm Malika Wrights, and this is the Malika Wrights channel. So, I got a sort of comment, question, DM the other day, which asked me about whether I think I am being biased when it comes to the way I talk about Christianity. Now, anyone who has watched my channel knows that I am a Christian. I have made no secret about that. And some people may worry that I am being biased or sort of imposing Christian values onto texts that are not necessarily Christian. That being said, most of the texts I have covered here are either Tolkien, which is very, very Christian, or works by Tolkien, which are very Christian, or something by C.S. Lewis, again, very Christian. But there are other works I've covered that are not inherently Christian. Now, the way I would address that is that I am Malika before I am Malika Wrights. So I'm going to be inherently biased because people are inherently biased. We can try as much as possible to leave our biases and ways of thinking at the door and sort of embrace new things and try and come to everything with a clean slate. But we are who we are at the end of the day, and we bring who we are to the table whenever we interact with things. So I am not going to sit here and act like I don't do that, because humans do that. So that would be the first answer to that sort of question. But I do think that I make an effort to look at the text as it is presented to me by the author, because while I am Christian and while I do have my own values, I do believe in artistic integrity, which is sort of being true to the text and really trying to understand what the author, the orchestrator of the text, was trying to put forward, and not trying to deconstruct it and impose lenses onto it that were not meant to be there or were not explicitly put there by the author. Because I do believe that the author had a plan and had a purpose and had an idea that they wanted to put forward, and it is not for the reader to impose their own ideas and their own sort of things onto a text unless they're somehow guided there by the author. So it's perfectly reasonable for these two things to coexist, for me to have my own biases and also for me to make the effort to be as neutral as I can be. So, where my bias might come up is in the things that I define as good and the things that I define as evil, or what I see as righteous and what I see as just being unrighteous, or the things in that moralistic sense. My bias will definitely come up because that is the way in which I see the world. So even if an author is trying to put forward within their creation that this is the right thing to do, when I am assessing that and relating that to real life, I am not going to necessarily agree with the author's assessment of what is good and evil. However, I can acknowledge that that is my own bias playing a part in my interpretation, and I can distinguish between the two. The thing is, the more you know about your own ethos and how much of a role it actually plays in your life, then you are able to distinguish when you are actively using your ethos and when you are looking at something else within a text. So an example of this would be when looking at Miura's Berserk. Berserk has its own way of looking at morality that is not inherently Christian. So when I am looking at it, I'm not going to be looking at it from a Christian lens. But when I'm talking about what I deem to be right or what I deem to be wrong, I'm going to be using my lens, which is an inherently Christian lens. And I think saying things like, this is my opinion, or this is the way I look at it, or this is the way that I would rationalize this in real life, helps to sort of make that distinction. And I think that it's entirely possible to have your own set of beliefs and to have your ethos, but also to appreciate that not everyone has the same ethos, and to be able to properly analyze a work. It's just about doing your due diligence and actually caring about what the author had in mind, and not being so proud as to impose your own interpretations onto a work and pass it off as though that were the author's interpretation. Because while I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with having your own interpretation, trying to pass it off as the author's interpretation is just plain rude. So to just answer that question quickly, does my ethos affect my interpretations? Of course. But do I think that I impose that onto the text, or does it inhibit me from actually reading the text for what the author intended? I don't think so, because I think with practice and with actual care for the text, you can really distinguish between your own ethos, if you know it well enough, and what the author is trying to say. So that's it for this video. I hope that it has been informative. If you want me to talk about it more, you want me to expand, or you want more questions to come out of this similar type topic, then just let me know in the comment section and I will be happy to address them. But thank you very much for watching. This has been the Malika Writes channel.